Hey, welcome back to Following Science, the podcast where I delve deep into the fascinating world of scientific discovery. I'm your host, Rutul Paral, and today I have an intriguing topic that touches the life of many, the science of loneliness. Loneliness is a universal experience, something that we all feel at some point in our lives. But what exactly is it? How does it affect our bodies and minds? And what can we do to combat it? In today's episode, we're going to explore these questions and more. So, let's start with defining loneliness. It's important to distinguish between loneliness and being alone. Loneliness is the subjective feeling of isolation, not necessarily tied to being physically alone. It's the feeling of being disconnected or not having meaningful connections with others. Now, this could mean that you feel lonely and isolated within a group of 20 people, and even though so many people are around you, you can't help but feel like you're all alone in this. That's loneliness, not being alone. Now, Dr. John Capicchio, a pioneer in the study of loneliness, defined it as perceived social isolation. This means that one can feel lonely even when surrounded by people if they don't feel a sense of genuine connection. Now, loneliness isn't just a state of mind. It has real, tangible effects on our bodies. Research has shown that chronic loneliness can lead to a range of physical health problems. When we experience loneliness, our bodies go into a state of stress. This activates the HPA axis, leading to the release of cortisol, a stress hormone. Chronic elevation of cortisol can result in inflammation, weakened immune function, and an increased risk of chronic diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. Additionally, loneliness can impact our sleep patterns. Studies have found that lonely individuals are more likely to experience fragmented sleep, which can further exacerbate health problems. Now, the psychological effects of loneliness are equally profound. Loneliness is strongly associated with mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and increased risk of cognitive decline in older adults. When we feel lonely, our brains perceive it as a threat to our social well-being. This can trigger a state of hypervigilance, where we become more sensitive to potential social threats and more likely to perceive natural and neutral interactions as negative. This can create a vicious cycle where loneliness begets more loneliness. Now, loneliness has a profound impact on the brain. When we experience loneliness, our brain's social pain circuitry is activated. This involves several key brain regions, including the anterior cingulate cortex, the insula, and the prefrontal cortex. Now, starting with the anterior cingulate cortex, this region of the brain is associated with the emotional aspect of pain. When we feel lonely, the anterior cingulate cortex lights up in a similar way to when we experience physical pain. This suggests that our brain processes social pain and physical pain in similar ways. Then there's the insula, which is involved in our ability to sense our own internal state and emotions. During loneliness, the insula becomes more active, heightening our awareness of negative feelings and discomfort associated with being socially isolated. And lastly, there's the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for higher order cognitive functions, including decision-making and social behavior. Loneliness can impair the functioning of this region, leading to difficulties in regulating emotions and making socially beneficial decisions. Furthermore, loneliness can affect the production of neurotransmitters and neuropeptides. For example, dopamine, which is often referred to as the feel-good neurotransmitter. Dopamine plays a crucial role in the brain's reward system. However, loneliness can lead to a reduction in dopamine activity, which can then diminish our sense of pleasure and reward from social interactions. And then there's oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone or the social bonding hormone. Oxytocin is critical for social bonding and trust. When we feel lonely, levels of oxytocin can decrease, making it harder to form and maintain close relationships. This neurological response to loneliness reflects and highlights how deeply ingrained our need for social connection is. Our brains are wired to seek out and maintain social bonds, and when those bonds are lacking, it can cause significant distress. Now, loneliness doesn't just occur in a vacuum. Social and cultural factors play a significant role in how we experience and cope with loneliness. Modern society, with its emphasis on individualism and digital communication, can sometimes exacerbate feelings of loneliness. For instance, while social media can help us stay connected, it can also help create a sense of superficial connection. Seeing others' curated lives can lead to feelings of inadequacy and loneliness. Now, cultural norms around expressing emotions and seeking help can also impact how loneliness is experienced. Now, in some cultures, there may be a stigma attached to admitting loneliness, making it harder for individuals to seek support. Now, loneliness can affect people of all ages, but its manifestations and impacts can vary across lifespan. Now, for children and adolescents, loneliness can be particularly challenging as it coincides with crucial stages of development. Bullying, social exclusion, and the pressures of fitting in can contribute to feelings of loneliness for them, which is why it's important for parents, educators, and peers to create inclusive environments and encourage healthy social interactions. Then there's young adults. For young adults, transitions such as moving away for college, starting a new job, or ending a relationship can trigger loneliness. This stage of life often involves significant changes in social networks and identity, making it a critical period for addressing loneliness. Now, in the middle age, loneliness can stem from life events such as divorce, loss of a loved one, or caring for aged parents. Balancing career demands and personal life can also contribute to feelings of isolation. And lastly, there's older adults, and for them, loneliness is a significant concern. Factors such as retirement, loss of friends and family, and health issues can contribute to social isolation, which is why addressing loneliness in older adults is so crucial, as it is linked to higher risks of cognitive decline, physical health problems, and mortality. Now that we have explored the facets of loneliness, let's discuss strategies to combat it, starting with strengthening social connections. Building and maintaining meaningful connections is key. This can be achieved through regular social activities, joining clubs or groups with shared interests, and making an effort to reach out to friends and family. Remember, it's not always them that has to reach out for you to start a conversation. Sometimes it's okay for you to reach out as well and make an effort, because oftentimes the person in front of you might just be waiting for you to make the first move as well. So send that text and make that effort to stay in touch. If it still doesn't work after that, then you just go in and find another meaningful connection. Then there's improving social skills. For some, loneliness may be linked to difficulties in social interactions. Learning and practicing social skills such as active listening, empathy, and effective communication can help improve relationships. Then there's volunteering. Volunteering can provide a sense of purpose and connection to others. It can also be a way to meet new people and develop a support network. Then there's therapy and counseling. Professional help can be beneficial, especially for those experiencing chronic loneliness. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, has been shown to be effective in addressing these negative thought patterns associated with loneliness. And then there's utilizing technology. While technology can sometimes exacerbate loneliness, it can also be a valuable tool for connection. Video calls, online support groups, and social media can help maintain relationships, especially for those who are physically isolated. And lastly, promote community engagement. Creating support communities where people feel connected is crucial, and joining these is just as crucial as well. And these community engagement support communities can involve things like community programs, public spaces designed for social interaction, and initiatives that foster a sense of belonging. In other words, find your group and hold on to them because it's going to be so important. Now, addressing loneliness isn't just an individual responsibility. Society and policymakers have to play a role as well, which is what they can do by increasing awareness about the impact of loneliness and reducing the stigma around it through public awareness campaigns. They can also organize support initiatives and promote social interactions through different community programs, such as community centers, group activities, and social services for vulnerable populations. They can also design more public spaces, and of course, employers can create a more supportive work environment that can encourage social connections and foster that sense of belonging among the people in your work environment instead of fostering a sense of competitiveness and isolation. Now, just like every episode, before I end, I'm going to go into some future research into loneliness that is essential to fully understand and address this complex issue. So let me talk about some promising directions that we currently see in our research, starting with genetic and biological factors. We're currently delving deeper into the genetic predispositions and biological mechanisms of loneliness, which could help us create a more personalized intervention. Understanding the role of genetics and neurobiology can also aid in developing treatments tailored to individual needs. Then we're also going towards more technology-based solutions, where the rise of digital tools offers new ways to combat loneliness. Apps, virtual reality, and online platforms can facilitate meaningful connections and support networks. Then there's also researching about loneliness across cultures, because loneliness is experienced differently across all these cultures, and investigating these differences can provide insights into a more culturally sensitive approach to intervention, ensuring that all the strategies provided are effective and respectful of all diverse backgrounds. Then there's also impact on various populations. Different groups, again, as I mentioned before, experience loneliness differently, and by studying this loneliness in specific populations, such as caregivers, migrants, and those with chronic illnesses, we can develop targeted support systems that address unique challenges that these groups faces. And lastly, there is longitudinal studies happening where we can conduct, and we are conducting, long-term studies that will help us understand the effects of chronic loneliness across time and how it impacts our brain, our cognitive health, and just in general, our physical, mental health, everything. Now, loneliness is a complex and multifaceted issue that affects millions of people worldwide. It has a profound impact on our physical and mental health, and it highlights the importance of addressing it both on an individual and societal level. By understanding the biological, psychological, and social dimensions of loneliness, we can develop more effective interventions and support systems. It's crucial to foster environments to provide and promote genuine connections and provide resources for those struggling with loneliness. And so if you're feeling lonely, remember that you're not alone. There are resources and people ready to help out. So reach out, connect, and take steps to care for your mental and physical health. Now, as I wrap up this episode, I just want to thank you all for joining me into this deep dive into the science of loneliness. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with others who might benefit. And of course, don't forget to subscribe Following Science for more insights into the fascinating world of scientific discoveries. Until next time, stay curious and stay connected. This is your host, Ruto Raparel, and this has been Following Science.